So the first thing I notice right here above the Dark Kadabra is a little hair above the D here. So just kind of get rid of that. And so when people say, you know, these techniques or what I kind of demonstrate doesn't really help, if I didn't do anything with that, that would have kind of been left onto the card. And so another thing that I've noticed, and you guys can probably see it here too, is sometimes with older cards, there might be a little bit of extra card stock kind of like stuck on the side. Because you can see it's added onto the edge of the card versus being removed from the card. And normally what happens, again, with like how the cutting process happens, is that it wasn't clean cut enough to remove most of that. So we'll try to see if we can do anything with that as we kind of progress to the back. But again, we're going to just go counterclockwise here. There's really not much to kind of talk about. There are a little bit of something there. Those looked like hair, so we just got rid of those. And a lot of what I'm talking about is, again, I'm using a microscope, so you guys might not even be able to see it in chat. So as I kind of go across, and again, we're really trying to make sure that we do all of our due diligence here. And so we do see, I don't know if you guys can see that on stream, and I'll try to do my best to kind of highlight it. It's a very, very faint, almost looks like a bit of hair, but it's almost like either an indentation or a small degree of something stuck on there. So what I like to do here is, again, I take the distilled water, I roll the Q-tip around it, and off to the side, I'm basically, so people ask me, you know, how moist should the Q-tip be? And so what I like to do is I basically try to get it to where it feels like I'm, like if you're, you know, trying to clean your glasses where you kind of blow very gently or kind of fog up your glasses just enough to where you know, kind of fog them up. Basically, that's how moist you want the Q-tip, meaning that if I really press on here, there should really be no moisture coming out of the Q-tip. So all I'm doing right here is just kind of doing my due diligence, seeing if there's anything stuck onto that spot specifically, and it doesn't appear so. So it looks like it's kind of on the card. And we might have to, what I kind of call the shine test, when I kind of bring it up closer to you guys. We'll be able to see a little bit more in detail, so we'll have to come back to that. But aside from that, the edges so far, from kind of this like 2D plane here, so far so good. So the edges look really good. Again, really a lot of the dirt and grime really stands out on these yellow borders. So it's pretty easy to tell. And here you can see that there is some degree, and I'm actually going to turn on the overhead lights here. Hopefully it's not too bright. But right on top of here, we do see a little bit of silvering, which is nothing that we can fix. Because again, the techniques that I'm showing on stream today is anything that is added onto the card. I'm not adding anything to the card, if that makes sense. So I don't use any wax or filler or anything like that that would be adding to the card. I'm simply just using techniques that remove things from the card. So there is some confusion sometimes about that. So I always like to clarify exactly what I'm doing. So now, so continue to talking out loud, the edges and the centering were very, very good. The corners are really good. Again, the only thing that we're going to really kind of look at when we flip it over is this top left corner and that little bit of smudge on that left side. But so far, so good. So as we go across the hollow, you know, we do see a little bit of, and I'm going to turn this just because we're kind of washing it out a little bit. So you can see here, there are very, very minimal scratches, which is fantastic for a card of this age. So we're kind of looking across, again, even in this kind of section in the top light, almost like where the top left, rather, where the spotlight is what I was trying to say. We're just going to try to get rid of some of that and just go by through. Get rid of some of those little dusties that were kind of stuck onto it. But aside from that, this card is in incredible shape. And so we're just going to turn it over real quick. Kind of review the text. So the one thing that I don't know if you guys can see on stream that we're going to see if we can try to do anything with is that little dot right above, or right below rather, that psychic energy. So we're going to see if that's anything. And we don't want to go too hard. I can't emphasize enough how little pressure I'm really applying to these cards. And right now what I'm doing is I'm just kind of taking the dry tip of the Q-tip and gently rubbing over, because normally, and it's kind of hard to do so with gloves on, but normally what I like to do is kind of rub across it just to feel if it's lifted. So if it's lifted, that means that, you know, there is something added onto the card and we can kind of continue attacking it, so to speak. But in that case, I didn't really feel anything, so it's probably a bit, and we'll kind of do, like I said, the shine test here in a second to see if we're seeing anything like a shine or something like that when we kind of look at the light. But so far, this card is in immaculate shape. And so I'm going to bring it up to the camera now, and we'll kind of see, you know, again, we'll do like the quick shine test to see if there's anything else that kind of sticks out more on like a 3-dimensional plane more than the standard 2. So we kind of look at this card, right? So this is more of like an eye view. So from eye view, right, this card is incredibly clean. But with the microscope, you can kind of see a lot of those like little, very, very small scratches on the hollow. But then, you know, like as we're kind of looking at that little whitening at the top there, not too bad. But, you know, from an eye view, this card is in fantastic shape. First glance. So the first thing that we're going to see is these little white specks kind of speckled across the card. So that's going to be a major point of focus for me as we kind of take this onto the microscope to assess whether or not that's stuff added onto the card or if it's removed from the surface, because, you know, this will be a really good example. If that stays, you know, that's going to have a pretty significant impact on the surface subgrade. But if we can remove it, then that's going to be really good for us, especially since the front of this Alakazam is in such good shape. So that's going to be a major point. But in terms of centering, again, I haven't had to even bring out the tool. The centering is in really good shape, both on the front and the back. So far, so good. So let's put it under the microscope and take a look. And those who might be wondering, you know, why I'm putting this card without a sleeve on this mat. This mat this is what I use. It's toolbox liner, so I cut them in 4x6s, and I haven't had a problem with it since I've used it. It's actually been really nice to kind of maneuver the card, especially like with the magnifier, without having the card getting rubbed. So that's why it kind of looks like there's a little bow, only because of this bottom surface. So let's take a look. So again, I'm trying to start, I kind of just go counterclockwise. Again, it's just personal preference. It really doesn't matter. So let's take a look. So we do have a little bit of a lift here, but I don't think it's bad. You can kind of see if we kind of press it, you can kind of see that shine a little bit. And again, so this side where we're kind of looking, that's where that little extra bit of white cardstock was on the back. That's that little bit of extra that I was talking about. So you can kind of see that little excess stuck on that side of the card. But so far, again, you kind of see those little bits of cardstock, very microscopic. But again, we're using the microscope, so you're really kind of seeing them kind of stick out there on that top edge. So someone was asking me about the little whitening and how much it impacts. So we do have a little bit, very, very slight though, right there in that top left corner. So we do have to kind of keep that in mind. So now we're starting to kind of get to that one side that I was talking about. So here, again, guys, so this is something, you know, if we don't address this and we leave this on, this could potentially, and this might even just be a piece of fuzz, right? So this right here where the tip of my Q-tip is, so all I'm going to do is just brush that off and see how that moves around. So had I left that on there, you know, granted, it was barely on there to the point where it probably could just be dusted off, like even during shipment and when they kind of take it out. But if that somehow got stuck on there, you know, that's kind of taking away from you, right? So you can kind of see these little bits here as well. So now, so here was what we saw, and you can kind of, this is a really good shot of what I was seeing in the beginning. So see all these little specks here. So this is kind of the make or break of this card specifically. So I'm kind of feeling over, and I'm barely even brushing it, and you can kind of see right away, these are kind of coming right off. And so these are either, I'm not too sure what they are, to be honest. But actually, I'm going to, just to be on the safe side, you can kind of see that they're kind of stuck on that mat. So I'm going to do, so I have that microfiber cloth that I had on the side. We're going to gently put that down for now and then just shake that off camera. Make sure, because I don't know what those were, because they were leaving some form, or they were about to leave some form of a trail. So we'll have to really pay attention and really kind of keep an eye out for that. So I already threw out the other Q-tip, and you know, some people ask me how often do I switch out a Q-tip, and for a card like this, you know, Q-tips are so inexpensive. I think I buy, you know, a case of like 1,000 Q-tips in one little unit. You know, so I'll probably either, depending on the severity of the card, I'll go from, you know, 2, 3 to even 4 Q-tips just for one card specifically. Because it's, you know, I'd rather be due diligent and have a fresh Q-tip every single time versus just having to feel like I need to reuse them. You know, it's obviously not probably as like eco-friendly as it probably could be, but you know, at the end of the day, we're trying to do our best to clean these very delicate cards. So sometimes that's just is what it is. So again, so this is kind of where that spot, and it's kind of even hard to see it anymore, honestly. So again, very, very gently. I cannot express how light I'm pressing onto this. I'm doing little like dabs, honestly, because we don't need to streak it. Because I was noticing a little bit starting, but just doing this and it's gone. That's gonna be a really good before and after when we look at this card. So I'm kind of going backtracking a little bit, seeing a little bit more kind of on that edge. But so far so good. Has been fantastic. So that bottom corner, again, really good. Now we're kind of home free in some capacity, right? Because that was the biggest issue that we saw almost immediately. But the edge of here, you know, it's in pretty good shape. You know, have a little bit of, you can kind of see a little bit of shine here, which tends to lean more towards either a mild degree of whitening or a mild degree of like a lip up. That is not too bad, because that could definitely be a lot worse for sure. And again, I was kind of getting a little bit ahead of myself there. So see if we can try to get rid of any of these little like white bits kind of stuck onto the card. And so yeah, so as we're going to kind of look at the back here, now we're kind of looking more at the surface. But again, we're kind of, you know, fingers crossed, guys. I think we're starting to get in the home stretch here. A little bit of something here. You can kind of see it when I kind of gently push down on it. You kind of see this little spot right here. So we're going to try to see if that is anything. And it looks like very gently coming off. And now that is just whatever is stuck on there. And it doesn't feel like it's raised, so that's good in the sense of what we can do. But the rest of it's looking pretty good. Kind of just looking at the Pokemon right now. Doing really, really just like very, very mild. Just spots that might have some stuff. But man, guys, this card is in extremely good shape. I mean, you can kind of see, you know, the microscope, you know, is going to show some of these scratches here, so you can kind of see those kind of going across the card. But overall, in really good shape. So let's now take a look. So now that we got rid of those big, like the 5 clustering of those white dots, now we can kind of see on the back, right, that they are completely gone. So all we'd used, you know, was just that distilled water, and it's gone, right? So it was right in this section, right where my finger is, and it's in pretty good shape, you know. So I'd probably say, let's see, I almost had a little bit of, so there's the back, chat. So again, kind of so now it's kind of nice, because I also like to do kind of like a 3-dimensional kind of shine test, because you can only see with the microscope on a 2D plane. So it's nice to kind of get the light at different angles too, right? Because there's actually a little bit of like glitter almost on that spot that I couldn't really even see on the microscope. So I'm kind of glad I'm doing this. So there's the back. And then here's the front. It's kind of like a before and after. So let me kind of do that, but yeah, such a really nice looking card. So again, so now it's kind of like, okay, so do I think this card, so here's kind of like my separating baseline here for vintage. So if I think it's going to get an 8 or higher, I'm most likely going to submit it. So the question is, do I think that this is a 7 or lower? And based off of the front being as clean as it is and the back, I'm not seeing any like major curves or major bends or anything like, there's none of it at all. And additionally, we got rid of all that whitening there on the back. So I don't think it's going to be a 7 or below. So really the only thing that's kind of keeping this is just the corner. So that one white little corner that we were talking about before, and I don't know if it can kind of zoom in or not, but you can kind of see right there, kind of sticking out that edge. And additionally, we had a little bit of that whitening up there. And that kind of excess, like I said, that white extra edge kind of transferring over to the back. You can kind of see right there, that little like shadow. That's what that is. So I would probably say because of both of those, right? So we're kind of taking a look at the other corners. I'm probably saying it probably get, like, I'm hoping a 9. But I'm thinking really more towards like a 9 than an 8, depending on how severe this side is going to be assessed, to be honest. Because I have seen other cards, like I had an Electrode, for example, that I graded that had that very, very similar whitening, kind of extra whitening on the edge. Even though it wasn't taken away from the card, it was kind of like left on. That came back as a 9. So I'm really kind of only basing this assessment off of that. So I'm probably thinking, a 9 or an 8. But if I had to guess, let's just go for, probably going for a 9 would be my guess. Because again, like just by the eye appeal from this card, it's in incredible shape, right? Like we had to use a microscope to even see any of the scratches on the hollow. And it's really clean. So I'd probably assess this Dark Alakazam as a 9 would be my guess.